I'm your host, Preston Bailey with Smash Mouth Sports. I've got with me Cam Vieira, my co-host. Cam, how you doing today?
Good, Preston. Good to be here.
For the purpose of this conversation, because I can see you're flustered for those watching at home, he's ready to punch somebody in the face, and no, he didn't just fight Conor McGregor. We're going to get right into it today. We're happy. We're honored to have the great Adam Jones from 98.5, the Sports Hub in New England. For those Tampa people watching, we get more love from New England. I thought it was the other way around. I thought the NFL hated New England. I'm feeling the opposite. I'm ready to smack my local guys in Tampa and go over to the dark side. And speaking of the dark side, I don't know if he likes this name or not, but I was told by the powers that be that he is the Dark Knight, Adam Jones. Adam, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm cool with the nickname. I have no problems with that nickname. I've heard worse, so I'm good with it. I'm cool.
I don't know if you're loved or hated there, but I noticed just tweeting out a simple tweet, there was a lot of people like, "Oh, don't have Adam Jones on." I was like, "What is going on?"
No, that's standard. That makes perfect sense. So I think that answers your question. If I'm loved or hated, I think that makes sense.
It's funny. It is a different culture in Tampa. You know, Cowherd talks about this. It is true. In Tampa, it's a calmer, on the water, on the beach. It's 4:00 on Friday. People are like, all right, when's the drinks coming? Let's have some sushi. Let's get ready for the weekend. New England, it's funny, man. Cam came down a couple years ago. We met this couple from New England. We're like, yeah, we do love to drink beer and start fights. It's all true. That is a true thing. So can you confirm, is it true in New England in the blood? There's just a feistiness and, an old school,
Yeah, there's an edge. There's an edge, right? I mean, Cam, I'm sure would agree with that, right? Like, I mean, there are some places that have an edge, and Boston and New York and Philly. I kind of think that Northeast region is kind of, at least three of the markets I think of, three of the areas I think of right off the top that kind of have an edge. And I don't know if we're all just bitter about how cold and crappy it is here, but I think there's an edge built in with us for sure.
I mean, everything Tino said in that press conference, the negativity, it's as famous as that press conference is, it's true. We just take it way too seriously up here. It's absolutely true.
That's fair.
Now, I gotta ask you, Adam, we had Greg Bedard on last week, and if you would have talked to Greg Bedard, you would have been convinced the Patriots are going to win the rest of the games. And I'm thinking, am I crazy to thinking that you're not going to win the rest of the games? You guys are 4-5 now. What do you see with them going against the Texans this week and the rest of the way with the Patriots?
Well, they should beat Houston. I mean, I think that's a pretty safe bet, although they're not the heaviest of favorites. I think they're only a 2-point favorite in Houston, and they've been a bad road team, but they should beat the Texans. After that, I would make an argument that the Arizona game could be the biggest game of their season, kind of a make or break game for their season. I wouldn't expect them to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals look not great until the end last week against Buffalo, but they've been good all year long. And, for me, that's a make or break game because the Patriots can pick up a little bit of ground this week. If they beat the Cardinals, they're in good shape. If not, then, what we were thinking last month that their season is probably over is accurate.
Are you worried at all about the back-to-back LA games, the Chargers and the Rams? Are you worried about that?
Sure. Less so the Chargers, but I think the Rams are good. And I think having to stay out on the West Coast and play 4 days apart isn't great. I'd have to look again at who plays where the previous week, but I think the Chargers are actually on the road the week before they play the Patriots. So the Patriots are going to be in LA before the Chargers are in LA. So that layoff and quick turnaround may not impact them as much as it would in normal times. I think the Patriots are staying out there. So, I mean, that's a tough bang back-to-back road games. I just told you they're not good on the road. I think it's one road win this year, and that was at the Jets, a game they probably should have lost. So, yeah, I would say I'm worried about that. I focus more on the Cardinals first, though, because I think that's the bigger, more immediate issue for them.
I agree. I think the Cardinals are a tough team, and I don't see anybody guarding DeAndre Hopkins, including Gilmore. And I got to ask you, what is going on with Gilmore? Is he faking for more money? What is he doing here? Because last year it looked like he was the best player in the league, and this year it looks like he doesn't even like football. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Stephon Gilmore.
What Bedard tell you about him? Because Bedard would know more than me, and I think Bedard he does a local hit on our station up here every week, and I think he hinted pretty strongly that. Yeah, Gilmore is basically Wildcat striking, holding out, which I think is what's going on. There were reports here in the Boston Herald, I don't know, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever the injury first hit, that it is a real injury, a legitimate injury, but not a serious one. So what does that mean? Does that mean if he wanted to play, he could? That's how I interpret it. So Cam would know. We've talked about this a lot in Boston. He's put his house on the market. He basically held out in the preseason before coming back and getting a $5 million pay bump. He hasn't played well this year. He's putting out all kinds of cryptic things on social media. So, yeah, I think he doesn't want to play unless he gets his money. I think if he had his money, he'd be playing. And in the meantime, he's making a business decision and protecting his health. That's what I think.
Cam, what are your thoughts on that? Is that true that Stephon Gilmore suffers from lack of sacinitis?
I think that's a good way to put it, Preston. And also, keep him off the field. If Bill Belichick wants to make something of this season, which we all know he does, tanking is not in Bill Belichick's vocabulary. Keep Stephon Gilmore and keep Julian Edelman away. Because I know they were both hurt, but their attitudes were weighing the team down. You cannot convince me that Julian Edelman does not want to be with his boy, with your Buccaneers. That's where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be here, especially now that Antonio Brown's there. Edelman and Gilmore's attitudes were weighing this team down. They were both banged up, but their attitudes were weighing them down. Keep them off the field.
Are you suggesting that Julian Edelman is jealous because they ride the jet skis together, Tom Brady and Antonio Brown? Is that really what you're suggesting, Adam? Is this true, what Cam is talking about?
Well, I mean, I don't know about Edelman's attitude. I think Edelman on the field might be a problem, though. I'm not saying Cam's wrong about the attitude. That could be the case. He's certainly stared longingly in Brady's direction earlier this offseason, so I wouldn't rule that out. To me, Edelman on the field would be the bigger complication because I don't want, and this is a sad state of affairs, and it tells you where the Patriots are at. But I don't want anybody taking snaps from Jacoby Myers right now. And if Edelman comes back, is he going to play that slot role? What does that mean for Jacoby Myers? So I think it's an on-field thing with Edelman. With Gilmore, I'm with Cam. I don't want Gilmore back on the team right now. They play better without him. And not that their defense has been great. They got lit up by Joe Flacco and Brett Perriman on Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. But I think his attitude might be dragging the team down. And young guys were following him, and that's part of the reason why Bill said, good, you want to go do your Wildcat strike? Do your Wildcat strike, because they've been better since he's been away. Maybe not defensively every week, but as a team, they've been better since he was away. Close loss against Buffalo and 2 wins since he's left the team.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was hurt because I heard those rumblings, and I'm like, are the Patriots tanking early on when they were 2-5? Are they tanking, not tanking? What are they doing? Which way are they going? And I thought, hey, man, the Bucs, we need another corner. Let's get on the phone. Let's call New England. Let's bring Gilmore here. Team him up with Brady. Because I got the sense from the offseason that he was really the only true veteran guy, at least one of the few that didn't opt out. And they paid him, like you said, the extra $5 million to toe the company line. And even with getting extra money, he's like, I still don't want to toe the company line. I still want more money. Like, he just seems like a guy that he's a great player, no doubt about it. But he just seems like a guy, he's at that point now in his life where he's almost 30, where he's got some money, where he's like, I'm a hired gun now. I'm going to go to whoever pays me the most. I don't care about anything else. And I don't want to, just go through the motion, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he definitely wants another contract. Yeah. So I don't know if he's going to bounce around and do the Deion Sanders thing, hired gun. 1 year he's with the Niners, the next year he's with the Cowboys. I don't. He finishes with the Ravens. I don't know that Gilmore's quite in that territory yet, but I think he wants that next contract. He's pissed at some of the other corners who have gotten that contract, and I think until he gets it, he's going to have trouble focusing. I think that's what we've seen.
If he was my agent and he wouldn't want to hear this, I'd say he blew it, because after last year, he should have demanded a trade.
Well, I would say the Patriots,
everything was going his way.
I would say the Patriots blew it. The Patriots should have traded him in training camp. They should have traded him around the draft. They should have traded him. I argued this. Cam knows this. I argued this last year after the Jalen Ramsey trade. I'm like, if you can get 2 first-round picks for Ramsey, the Patriots should think about moving Gilmore. I think the Patriots blew it. Because at the deadline, we were hearing they might not be able to get a 2nd-round pick for him. Never mind a first, never mind multiple picks. So, I mean, I think they dragged their feet and screwed it up with Gilmore, to be honest. I think they should have dealt him a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Go ahead, Cam. Go ahead, yeah.
He's also not going to help against Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins torches him every time he plays him. They torched him in college, torched him last year. DeAndre Hopkins owns Stephon Gilmore. He won't help against Arizona.
I got to ask Adam this. Okay, like you brought up some great points. So Jalen Ramsey gets a haul. He gets two. They traded two first, and I believe they get either second or third for him. Jamal Adams gets two first and a third. These are two guys that are great players, but in my opinion, Stephon Gilmore's prime is better than either one of those guys.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And he's older than those guys. In fairness,
He's older.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like he should. Yeah. The Patriots, if they were already fighting a year ago, they should have traded him because his stock was high. You could have gotten, like you said, a first-round pick. Maybe you don't get two firsts like these other young guys that are 24, 25, but you could have gotten a first and a third or first and a fourth. Like if you're going to move on from him and he's already disgruntled, and everybody knew this was going to be a long road for the Patriots. The fact that they're 4-5 with this roster, I have to tip my hat to Bill Belichick. I mean, to me, that's way better than I would have thought.
Yeah. And look, I think there is something to be said, and Cam alluded to this earlier, and I agree with it, though I would word it a little differently. I don't know if it's in Bill Belichick's DNA to tank or not. This year, it's not going to happen. With Tom Brady in Tampa and with Brady versus Bill, their legacies at stake with this season and, the next couple of years, I don't think Bill's going to waste a year and go to, 3-13 while Brady's winning 10 or 11 games in Tampa and going back to the playoffs. I don't think Bill wants to do that this year of all years. So, look, I think he tried to make a good, honest run at the beginning of the year. And he screwed up the quarterback position. I mean, I think it's plain and simple. If he went out and maybe drafted someone who could play or looked a little more seriously at trade options or veteran options earlier in the offseason, they may not be where they are. I mean, he really left the cupboard bare with Cam Newton and prior to that, Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. Newton's been better the last couple of weeks. He still threw for like 117 yards last weekend, like something pathetic like that. Like he's been much worse than advertised, or at least much worse than I expected. I thought he'd at least be okay. I thought he had a chance to be pretty good. He's been a borderline disaster.
He has been a disaster. And like you said, I mean, look, if you're the Patriots and you're running for 170, 180 yards a game and Cam Newton's throwing for 125, all due respect, he's not really the quarterback of the team. He's not throwing the ball 250, 275, 300 yards. I mean, just look at what Tom Brady's done. We've got two great running backs. Tom Brady's still throwing for over 300 yards almost every week. So I think, let me ask you this about Bill Belichick. Are you concerned that Bill Belichick, the GM, is going to get Bill Belichick, the coach, fired or at least in hot water over these next couple seasons? Because they have drafted horribly. They missed on DK Metcalf and Nick Chubb. I mean, they've missed on a lot of great players.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to get him fired. I think, it's gotten on a lot of people's radars here lately in New England because Brady's not here to mask the missed draft picks anymore. I mean, they've been missing picks. 4, 5, 6 years. This is not new. This is not a new development. So I don't know if it's going to get Bill fired. But I do think, something we get a lot of in Boston, like, should the Patriots bring in an actual personnel guy who could stand up to Bill and who could make the calls independent of Bill? That sounds great in theory. I'd love for that to happen. Bill's not going to relinquish that power. So I think the more realistic scenario, does Bill have eyes for somewhere else because there's not a lot of young talent in the pipeline here? And would Bill leave? I don't think the Crafts are going to throw in the towel on Bill that quickly.
No, I agree. Cam, now you had a theory a few weeks ago. You're bigger into the deep state, the conspiracy theory, the Alex Jones off the grid, into the war rooms there. What team did you say that you think that Bill Belichick is scheming to go towards?
Oh, let's hear it.
I don't know if he's scheming towards it. I just think it's realistic because this is a team that needs a coach that's real. Dallas. I think if he gets Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and that boatload of talent in Dallas. Now, the defense has to improve, obviously. But I think Jerry Jones might finally realize he needs a real coach.
Now, when you first said, my first thought was that's crazy. And then I thought about it. I thought, wow, the Dallas Cowboys are in shambles. If there was one person that the owner, Jerry Jones, would listen to, would be subservient to, for lack of a better word, would be Bill Belichick. Because Jerry Jones, in his Jerry Jones way, not in a yes sir, let me get your coffee, sir, but in a, because he didn't want to be subservient to Jimmy Johnson, as we all know in the 90s. We all know that have studied the history. We get that, but they were also friends. So he did not want to be Bill Belichick's demeanor, and Jimmy Johnson has a good personality. And here's what I mean by this. I don't think he's going to be subservient and here you go, Bill, here's your coffee. That's not going to happen. But what I do think is Bill, in Bill's way, can communicate good enough with Jerry. I want to draft this left tackle. And then Jerry Jones is like, that is my idea. I do want to draft. And he'll take the credit for it. And Bill Belichick's not a personal guy. I think in a crazy, bizarro world, in a 2020 world for next year, it could work. As crazy as it sounds, I could see something like that happening.
I mean, I'm not saying Bill's looking around. I don't know. I don't have any intel as to whether or not he is. If I were Bill, I would be looking around. I think his contract is getting close to up. Those are always very blurry details and tough to decipher, and there's very little public information on Bill's contract status. But I think we're getting close to the end. Within a year or two, I would say confidently. And you look at the roster, there's not a lot of young talent. Like, we're starting to talk here in New England, like, oh, well, the kid they drafted at tackle, Michael Onwenu, nice little player. Damian Harris has started to look nice. Chase Winovich finally got his way out of the doghouse. But these aren't difference-making young players. I mean, these are a couple of young players who are showing something, which is nice. It's better than what they had been showing. But I don't know that those are the kind of players that are going to keep Bill anchored down here in Boston, or in New England. So if I were Bill, I would be looking around. I don't know what his thought process is, though, but I would look at it.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll get to you, Cam. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel everybody's like, Cam's always like, is it Belichick or Brady? I'm like, look, I love Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick's a great defensive coach, but Tom Brady's the guy throwing the football. Let's be real. You can't continually go in the season and hoping to get Josh Gordon off drug use and get an Antonio Brown after fighting with two teams. Like, that's not a realistic, sustainable business model every single year. And Tom Brady makes it work with Julian. I mean, magically, Tom Brady leaves and everybody hates Julian Edelman. Everybody's like, a year ago, he's a Hall of Famer. A year ago, he's Super Bowl MVP, and now he's like, I can't even run routes. I want Jacoby Myers over Julian Edelman. And it's true. And it's true. Right, Cam? What are your thoughts?
Yes. And to Adam's point about Belichick, if we were to listen to Greg Bedard, who we had on last week, he said after the Tennessee loss last year, he checked in with the Washington football team and the Giants about their openings. He was ready to grease the skids because if Kraft stepped in and overruled him on the quarterback situation like he did with Garoppolo, Belichick was out. That was written into his contract. That we do know, that he got the say on the quarterback this time because Kraft intervened with Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would, just circling back, and I don't quite know if Bill was that out the door. I believe Bill looked around. I don't know that to be true, but I believe Bill would look around. I think the Giants and a team like Washington would interest Bill. When it comes to who's more important, and I don't know where you come down on this, Cam, but I would agree it's Tom. And it's close. It's 50.1 to 49.9. They're both great, but I would go with the guy on the field versus the guy, calling the plays.
Don't tell that to Cam. Earmuffs, Cam. I don't know if Cam's fragile.
Are you Belichick over Tom, Cam?
No. I think
he's changed. In the beginning, he says, Preston, you don't value coaching the way that I do.
I was Belichick over Brady until the second half of the dynasty. The first half of the dynasty, it was Bill. It was the defense. Brady was more of a game manager. I mean, he had a phenomenal Super Bowl against Carolina, obviously. But the second half of the dynasty, it was Brady.
I agree with that.
You could point to the 13 points against the Rams. Brady hung 37 in Arrowhead Stadium the week before that.
I hate to interrupt you, Cam, but to be fair, you made some good points. Bill Belichick will never throw 50 touchdowns again with any quarterback ever again, period. Anybody. You pick the name, it doesn't matter. So, yes, Tom Brady. No. Yeah. Oh, Cam, we're not even getting – we appreciate you. We've got a couple minutes over. Don't even get me into Jared Stidham because Cam was telling me about how Jared Stidham is going to be better than Jimmy G. He's got better hair. He looks better on the throne and these crazy things. I'm like, I'm not a
Jimmy G guy. I'm not a Jimmy G guy either. I might have said something like that back in the early offseason too because they were pushing Stidham. I mean, the Patriots were pushing Stidham as a real option, and then obviously that was all a lie because they couldn't get away from him fast enough.
Yeah, he's terrible. If I
remember correctly, after that horrible preseason game Jimmy had last year against the Broncos, you remember you came on the air the next night and said, I'd rather have Stidham than Garoppolo at this point.
I mean, I'm still not ruling that out. Garoppolo's not very good. So I'm still not ruling that out, but Stidham seems like he's, if we're being fair, probably worse.
Now,
Yes.
why is it you don't like Jimmy G, Adam? I'm curious. Did you guys run into trying to date the same porn star? I mean, what's
No, I don't like quarterbacks who can't throw. I don't like quarterbacks who can't throw. Biggest throw of his life he missed in the Super Bowl. He doesn't push the football down the field. He throws within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. His wide receivers do all the work. His coach schemes up everything for him. So I'm just not all that interested in that kind of quarterback. I think those kinds of guys you can find a lot of places. And if I'm going to find a guy like that somewhere else, I'm not going to pay him $25 million a year to throw at the line of scrimmage and have Deebo Samuel do all the running after the catch and have the coach scheme up the play. I don't need to pay $25 million a year for that. Not even close.
So Adam, you're not interested in bringing him back this offseason?
I mean, I think he would be an upgrade on Cam, but no, that's not my target at all. I'd much rather have him take a guy in the draft, like much rather, which is why I wanted them to lose that game to the Jets. I would like to see them go into the top 10 or maybe top 5. And if that doesn't mean you can get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, it means you're closer and in a better position to get something that I think could change the next 10 years of your franchise, as opposed to going from one Band-Aid, Cam Newton, to another Band-Aid, Garoppolo or someone like that. Like, I would like to fix that problem. And I've never thought you needed to develop the guy behind Brady. I've never been a guy who thought you needed to do the Favre, Rodgers, Montana Young route. Like, so many guys come in and play well as rookies. Look at all the rookies playing well this year. And, I know Tua didn't start the year as a starting quarterback, but all those guys came in their rookie year, they're playing well. That's what I would advise the Patriots to do over someone like Garoppolo.
So Jimmy G stock is plummeting. Well, Adam, we really appreciate you giving us the time.
Sure.
Before we go, where can everybody find you on Twitter? Instead, of course, positive comments, because Twitter is nothing but positive energy. Nobody would ever say anything negative on Twitter. But where can the non-New England fans outside that don't already know you hit you up on Twitter?
Yeah, you can follow me or send your hate messages or your fleets now. You see fleets are a thing. You can send those at Adam Jones 98.5.
Perfect. Well, Adam, we appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.